Our Wednesday meditation service. The daily word for today is, with God, I am ready to grow. Sometimes I might believe that life just isn't that interesting, or that my adventures and fun experiences are behind me. But life is what I make of it. And the more of myself I invest, the more interesting my life becomes. Life is for living, loving, and exploring. With Spirit, I am ready. Wherever I go and however I go and grow with God. So we're going to be doing a chant, and very simple. You don't have to think about what you're singing or how you sound like, what you sound like. Just relax. Okay. Open my heart, let only love flow through me. Center my soul upon the path of peace. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one. Open my mind, let kindness flow through me. Centered in love, a love with no end. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one. Open my eyes to see love before me, radiant love, shining through all. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one. Open my heart, let only love flow through me. center my soul upon the path of peace. Make of my life a melody of love. God is in all of life. We are all one. Creator of all life. Creator of all life. Bring us to the light. Bring us to the light.
Some illustrations are so apropos that they are worth repeating many times, because people will remember the illustration and it will key the teaching that it points to. Such an illustration is this one, which I use often enough. I read this true story that was in National Geographic's magazine. There was an expedition funded, I believe, by National Geographic, or at least they were part of the funding for this expedition, that went to a certain place in the ocean and they gathered fish from that particular area, which were known to only exist in that area. And so they gathered those fish and they brought them aboard. And then they were going to travel 1,000 miles and release the fish in the ocean with, I guess, every now and then one would have a device in it. But they would follow the fish to see if they would return to that place where they were known to come from, and in one place where they were known to be, but not in any other place in the ocean. So that was the experiment. But the experiment went south because the fish aboard the ship that was taking them to this other place in the ocean became sick and listed, and many of them died and floated to the top in the aquarium that they were traveling in. So they were put into aquariums aboard this ship. And then they were going to be taken to this other place. But so many of them became sick and died that they had to discontinue the experiment, and they looked into it and discovered that the fish were seasick. And they were seasick because their aquariums were only water 2 feet deep. And while riding on the ship, they were bouncing around and going back and forth, and so they got seasick. While in the ocean, these same fish, when the ocean is choppy, they simply go below, way below, where the ocean is still quiet and smooth. So they don't get seasick when the ocean is all choppy. And they had no place to go in the aquariums, so they became sick. And that is a perfect illustration for the world and the thinking of the world, and all the people that are living in the surface consciousness of the world. They have no recourse but to be tossed to and fro by every changing tide of circumstance. That's the way people live in the limited thinking of the world. As conditions and circumstances shift this way or that way, according to how it affects their personal expectations, they will either be somewhat peaceful or maybe not peaceful at all, because the circumstances change continually. So it is that some people, and this is difficult to realize, maybe most people live seasick lives because they're forever being tossed this way and that way by the changing circumstances. Those which they agree with, they might have some peace of mind, but those which go against their expectations or their opinions or what they believe should be, that tosses them and upsets them. And so the reason we have a seasick consciousness in this world is because people have no recourse to go deeper. That is what spiritual practice is all about. It is about being able to go deep and access the core nature of our being. And by doing that, we free ourselves from the changing circumstances of the world. We get to a place where those circumstances no longer hold sway over how we feel, over our emotions. And so let me share this with you from Eckhart Tolle regarding this condition. This is from the book Silence Speaks, page 66. On the surface, you may still be happy when it's sunny and not so happy when it's rainy. You may be happy at winning $1 million and unhappy at losing all your possessions. Neither happiness nor unhappiness, however, go all that deep anymore. They are ripples on the surface of your being. The background peace within you remains undisturbed, regardless of the nature of the outside condition. This is Master Eckhart Tolle, who went through a mental breakdown for a long time. He was a scholar and a student, and he was going to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist of some kind. But he became so overwhelmed with the difficulties and the stress of trying to get through and do this in school that he finally had a breakdown. And he spent, they said, about 2 years of his life after that not doing very much. He would go to the park a lot, sit on a bench, and feed pigeons. This is Eckhart Tolle, who's the multimillionaire, dynamic spiritual teacher, whose teachings we're looking at right here. I'll share this with you again. Listen to it. This is insight. This comes from someone who was broken by the changing conditions and stress of living an outer life. On the surface, you may still be happy when it's sunny and not so happy when it's rainy. You may be happy at winning $1 million or unhappy at losing all your possessions. Neither happiness nor unhappiness, however, go all that deep anymore. They are ripples on the surface of your being. The background peace within you remains undisturbed, regardless of the nature of the outside condition. Well, that's where we are in this spiritual practice that we are involved in. Today, people living in the tension and stress and the disappointment of the outer directed world, the world that the Master Jesus said we would have to overcome to enter the kingdom divine. But those people living that surface life and trying to make it work, ultimately failing as they must, because they are not strictly physical beings, none of us are. But what they do is they try to assuage, they try to quiet their anxiety, their deep worries and concerns by taking pills. They take substances to benumb their brain activity. So they take things like Ritalin or Prozac, something like that, and they do that because they can't sleep at night, they can't get rid of this anxiety that's with them all day long, the fear that they're not going to be able to control the conditions tomorrow, and the conditions are confronting them. This is life in the outer stupid world, okay? Let's finally get that. If you don't get anything out of this, you're not really seriously involved in spiritual practice. Just be awake to the fact that the human condition can be seriously defined as patently insane. Okay? It's the reason why we have senseless wars, unending conflict, and all kinds of discrimination, prejudice, concern, fear, hate, murder. That's the human condition without God. So we want to transcend that. We want to find this deeper core of peace that the masters speak about. And no one is actually excluded from ever coming and finding that. Well, you know as well as I do, if you don't see the madness of the world, you're part of it. Unless you've transcended it. Just consider how many people have tried taking these drugs to benumb the mind activity so they can find some modicum of peace. The problem is that when these drugs are prescribed and people take them, they never get off them because they become beholden to the drug to feel relaxed or to feel better than they usually feel when they don't have the drug. That's why addiction comes with taking the drug too often. Medical practitioners possibly today are getting to know more about this, and so they're not allowing their patients to continue to take these drugs. It's certain that some people can meet conditions and circumstances that are really problematic and difficult. They might need a drug for a little while to just help them get back to center. But after that, you've got to take the drug away. And you've got to take it away from them, because if they continue on the drug, what the drug will ultimately do, it will replace, listen carefully to this, it replaces those particular hormones that bring us peace in the chemistry of our body. When they're replacing them in our lives, eventually the body stops producing these hormones that bring us peace and make us feel relaxed and even allow us to feel joy. So you see the difficulty in this. As a matter of fact, you just have to look at the statistics of the opioid crisis. I mean, I don't know how many, multi thousands of people became brain fried and died from taking too much of these drugs that calmed their minds, that lifted them out of their depression, out of their anxiety, out of their fear. Some people try to do it with alcohol. And they do that until they are so distorted and so sick that they can't be helped either. I worked with them. Alcohol is a brain destroyer. There's nothing wrong with a couple of glasses of wine when you go to dinner or something like that, but when you are literally imbibing alcohol to get over the limitations you sense in your life, and all of the worry and stress that goes with trying to make the world work according to your expectations, that's going to finally kill you. and make you mentally disabled. I know this as a fact because I worked in the Manhattan Bowery Project. The Manhattan Bowery Project was an attempt to help destitute alcoholics who were out on the streets in the Bowery, which was, at that time and still may be, the armpit of creation. There was nobody there but people that had lost their way in life, and many of them simply were alcoholics. They will drink anything. They were drinking nail polish. They were drinking Sterno. They would sniff glue, anything to try to take their mind away from recognizing their dilemma. And what they did with this Manhattan Bowery Project, the city gave a building to the medical research people involved with alcoholism. And they had 3 floors in this big building, this big dilapidated building, yes, down in the Bowery. And they turned 2 floors into a hospital. And, you know, doctors in training would come there and work with those alcoholics who were willing to come up from the street and be treated. Now, the way it worked is a person that worked for the hospital, a social worker, and a police officer, both had to go down into the streets of the Bowery, find these guys that were laying in the streets, try to wake them up, because you couldn't take them without their will, wake them up and ask them, do you want to get dried out? Do you want to try to get free? You can come to the hospital and we'll feed you, we'll care for you, we'll give you some drugs to avoid the DTs, and we'll try to get you rehabilitated. And so that if they agreed, they were brought into the hospital. But when they were brought into the hospital, I worked there as a medical aide. Most of them were covered with their own defecation and lice. They were already in desperate condition. And we would have to, medical aides would have to cut their clothes off, take them into a shower them completely, and then delouse them. It wasn't a great job. It was a hard job. And it got very hard every now and then when one of these lost, drunk, destitute people in the shower would just simply hug you. Thank you, man. Thank you. God bless you, man. Knowing they're covered with lice still, and you've got to try to free yourself from them and keep them from falling down and everything else. I did that. But as desperate as they were, there was still a modicum of ego in them. I could tell you this whole story. Some of it's in my book. If you want to read a book that'll really open your mind to life and how to live it more effectively, read my book. Tell people about a book that really works for you. Escape to Another Reality is the title of the book. Okay, so we are talking about the necessity for people to reach such a place in desperation that instead of turning to drugs and alcohol, they turn to seeking another way to live their lives spiritually. They seek God, or they run into some people that are involved in spiritual practice, or they have a book that comes their way that opens them up to the possibility that there's another way to live above the pain, the sorrow, and the sickness of the world. And so they start their path toward the reality of their own divinity. And that's what Unity is all about. And Unity has been a place where that has been an amazing way for people to get free of the pain and sickness of the world. And by the way, Alcoholics Anonymous is another great program, a tremendous program. And it works very simply because it starts with the necessity for you to surrender the ego in you that says you really know what's best for yourself. So you have to get up and you have to say, I admit I'm an alcoholic. I'm helpless. I'm helpless against this drug that I've been using to try to escape life, true life. So, and there's a number of organizations, really. Unity is one of them, but we start on a positive note. And we help people to get involved in spiritual practice so that they can actually access this deeper level of awareness, which brings peace to their mind, harmony to their body and their health. But it requires a daily practice so that you don't allow all the limited conditions that you've been exposed to and believe in to still affect your mood, your feelings. And so what I'm suggesting tonight is that we're in the process of learning how to wholly pause, to take a holy pause. That is, when you're feeling anxious about things in life, when you're beginning to have worries and you feel depressed, and you don't like what you see, and things aren't going right, and your natural tendency is to lash out, to be angry at someone or something around you and blame them, and carry your anxiety with you into the workplace, into your family, into wherever. That's not going to help anyone. So the object of our journey in unity is to learn how to pause when that starts to happen. And to know we can give into it, we can allow it to take us over and make us completely impossible to feel peace, or we can pause, not react, and know within ourselves we can choose peace. We can actually choose to look past what appears to us to be the cause of our unhappiness or anxiety, and instead just say, I could choose peace. I could just let things be whatever they are. Let it be so. Yes, okay, you know, the job was very stressful, and it's going to continue to be stressful for a while, but it's okay. Let it be so. I'm going to let it be stressful. When you start to do that, let it be whatever it is. You start to feel peace because you don't have an inner resistance to what is happening. When you lose that inner resistance to what is happening, you are entering the spiritual realm that Master Eckhart Tolle is speaking about. You've decided to live in the present and not be in resistance to whatever the present may be offering up. Whatever the conditions are that seem to be there, what you're doing is you're not inwardly resisting them. You're just allowing them. You're allowing. And you're choosing peace. What I just said to you is the most meaningful, truthful ideal anyone can take a hold of in life. What I just said is it. You have the power to transform your experiences in such a way. You don't have the limited surface ideas of New Age spirituality, which says mind over matter. If you create enough of what it is you want in your mind and you set it up that this is what you're going to get, and you go forward for this and not allow anything to get in your way, it will come your way. Let me tell you firsthand, even if you gained that insane approach to life, that you get something or other that you really put your mind on, it will never bring you satisfaction. And it will never bring you peace. Because you are here by divine appointment. You have chosen to live the third dimensional experience in a body in order to learn in your soul how to live as an emissary of divine awareness or God consciousness. Now just say to yourself, stop for a second, just say to yourself, do you believe in the possibility of what I'm saying? That's all. Just that's it. Because if you don't believe in the possibility of that, it's fine. Nobody's going to get you but yourself. Nobody. There's no separate God going to judge you on that, going to get you for not being right with the truth. You are simply being isolated from the reality of divine life, peace, joy, insight, and true love. That's all. But it's your choice